When you enter a garden, do you think about what makes it unique? Do you connect yourself with a specific element of the garden, or perhaps wonder what the designer's intentions for this garden were? We will explore how Islamic garden design has been perceived throughout time and has contributed to the development of a unique heritage, one that considers not just form but also a connection with a divine architecture that unites the humankind and displays a certain order to us as stewards of the earth. A garden, as an image of paradise, can be traced back at least 5,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia. The land was dry, arid and hot, and it was therefore natural to imagine paradise as a green oasis with running water, plants and trees for shade. Early writings, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, written around 2400 BC, describe paradise with 4 rivers, dividing the garden according to the 4 cardinal points and crossing each other. This is just one theme that is being reinterpreted again and again, and one that can most notably be attributed with the gardens of paradise cited in Islamic tradition. In around 900 BC in Persia, the quadripartite garden design came to be known as the charbagh, meaning 4 gardens. With the development of irrigation canals called qanat and a network of underground canals called kariz, cultivation became possible in the desert region. A society that is centered on the sacred will inextricably link the practical to the spiritual. Religious symbolism is the linking of everyday practical activities to a heavenly archetype, and so when Islam spread in the 7th century, the Quranic scriptures helped to enhance the traditions of a garden as paradise to a great degree. The people accepted the new way of life in great measures, and Islamic philosophers began to reason that the more perfect something is, the more beautiful it is, and the more pleasure it produces. God's beauty, being the most perfect, therefore yields the most pleasure. In this way, geometric ornamentation reached a pinnacle in the Islamic world. Islamic artists appropriated key elements from the classical tradition, then complicated and elaborated upon them in order to invent a new form of decoration that stressed the importance of unity and order in the Islamic teaching. Based on the interpretation of the scriptures, gardens, as well as buildings, courtyards, and carpets, were designed to represent a universal order that symbolized the unity of God, with every aspect of the design being clear, legible, and relating to another. Early Muslims around the world made gardens that glimpsed at the heavenly gardens to come. Early geographers reported that Nisbin, a city in Mesopotamia, had 40,000 gardens, and Damascus had 110,000. Basra had miles of canals, crisscrossing gardens and orchards, and all across North Africa were a multitude of gardens. Water is the most important feature in an Islamic garden, both practically and symbolically. It is seen as a gift from God and a sign of His mercy. Water, used in the Islamic garden, represents the fluidity of the soul. It also portrays a central theme in Islam that this world is an illusion and a temporary reflection of heaven. Other must-have elements in the Islamic garden are enclosure, shade, trees, shrubs, herbs, and of course flowers. Gardens in Islamic Spain were designed to resemble the great palaces and mosques of the Islamic kingdom, and inspired the development of botanic gardens in order to procure new trees and shrubs and flowers such as a date palm, fig, pomegranate, olive, cypress, oriental plane tree, fruit trees, grapevines, hibiscus, tulips, roses, and iris. The benefit that this brought to Europe was not only aesthetic, but it also brought medical and environmental values. The region pioneered in horticulture, agriculture, and the development of farming manuals. The notion of the garden as paradise was also invoked in the Christian Middle Ages to serve the needs of the religious community. The Renaissance style of gardening also revived the paradise garden in Europe and gardens highlighting that everything on earth had a counterpart in heaven could be found in Italy, Germany, and Scotland. In Britain, there are a lot of sites that celebrate different cultures and heritage from around the world. Gardens built using traditional elements of the Islamic design are found across the UK, some of which are open to public and others for private enjoyment. A Faith Regen Foundation-led project, funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund, aimed to raise cultural awareness and connect young Muslims to their heritage by providing the opportunity for Muslims and non-Muslims to participate in designing an Islamic garden. Volunteers and students from a local school learned about the history, features, and symbolism of the gardens, and designed and created an Islamic garden on the rooftop of Oakland's secondary school in Bethnal Green. Traditional features of Islamic gardens have been replicated, such as the water canals leading to a central pool, a geometric layout partitioning the garden with flower beds and hedging, as well as fruit trees, herbs and olive trees as described in the Gardens of Paradise in the Quran. The idea of Islamic gardens has been adapted in different forms in the UK. 10 years ago, a small group of people active in the community of High Wycombe were inspired by the concept of the environment in Islam and how Islamic gardens can engage people. A multi-million-pound project called Gulshan Wycombe aims to promote engagement in this diverse society.
The public are very excited about it, and whenever we have talked to people, there is a tremendous buzz of when's it happening, where's it happening, what can we do, how can we get involved. I have no doubt that once we have a site to offer them and actual tangible things that they can do, that there will be a really big enthusiasm for it.
In the UK, the Islamic garden designs did not always encompass the core, transcendental meaning and were built out of a lust for Indian architecture and as a reinterpretation of the Mughal form of Islamic gardens. Sezenkot in Gloucestershire is a Jacobean manor house that was Indianized using a mixture of Hindu and Islamic architecture between 1805 and 1812. The Islamic garden was not added until 1965. Inspired by the concept of the Paradise Garden, Lady Kleinworth added a north to south water canal and paths that separated the garden into 4 parts and perfectly aligned with the house. The central fountain is an octagon, representing the transitional geometric form between the circle and the square, representing the heaven and the earth respectively.
The kind of essence of the design was to blend together, as the Mughal emperors did, Akbar in particular, the Islamic and the Hindu architectural tradition. So it's even quite schematic here. The ground floor of the house is Hindu, with the octagonal columns and the square-topped doorways and windows. The lotus emblem is very much a Hindu architectural feature. The Islamic elements are more obvious. The dome, of course, the minarets. There was no real garden in the sense of the word. They made all the effort on the architectural features in the garden, like the temple to the Hindu god Surya. The truly Islamic, or rather Persian garden, was added much later, after my grandparents bought the house at the end of the Second World War. After a visit to India, she designed the charbagh on the south side of the house, but that wasn't part of the original design of Daniel and Cockerell.
Traditional cypresses, whose evergreen qualities represent immortality, were replaced with the Irish yew trees to withstand the British climate, and hedges were planted around the garden to give the traditional sense of seclusion in this style of gardens. However, one example of an Islamic garden maintaining its true meaning is the Ismaili Centre on Exhibition Road in South Kensington. It was the first religious, cultural and social space specifically designed for the Ismaili community in the Western world. The beautiful rooftop garden was designed with the building to echo the Quranic Garden of Paradise and is surrounded by glass corridors that shelter it from the noise and bustle of London. Again, A central octagonal fountain is fed from 4 pools connected with narrow channels, and granite is used alongside greenery. This highlights the spiritual significance of using natural materials for form and decoration. Like the garden in Spain, Leeds' Alhambra Garden, which is part of the Specialist Gardens, is planted with both medicinal and ornamental plants and lined with high trees to create seclusion as the palace walls would. Roundhay Park in Leeds is one of the biggest urban parks in the world. The Alhambra Garden in Leeds is a faithful reproduction of the Patio Acequia, meaning the garden of irrigation. Water, at this time, was used as an ornamental feature to show power and wealth. However, the geometric layout, partitioned into sections and softened by informal planting, clearly shows the Islamic influence.
Geometric design of the garden brings out the Islamic influences. Can be seen on the layout of the garden and the way it's partitioned into sections. The planting in the garden is a collection of medicinal plants and ornamental plants. Water in the Alhambra Garden is totally recycled. As you notice, the fountains all point back into the canals, and then it's a matter of pumps that just pump it round and keep recycling it. The gardens attract a great number of visitors and a lot of interest. We get a lot of good feedback from this garden. They're all interested and all astounded at this particular garden. To us, it's like the jewel in the crown is the Alhambra Garden. It's a credit to Leeds to have this garden here and to be able to keep it open to the public as a free visitor attraction.
Other Islamic gardens in the UK have been built as a celebration of our multicultural and diverse communities. The Mughal Garden in Bradford's Lister Park stretches 120 yards and was designed to incorporate traditional Mughal features with a geometric ordering of nature. The use of trees, paths, flora, tumbling water cascades, and fountains show the Islamic style. The patterns, lining the paths and continuing in the railings along the garden, also reflect the designs found in mosaics around the world. The conifer trees lining the garden create shelter and peace from the rest of the park, and a large area overlooking the water creates a meeting space for different communities. Cholmondeley Gardens in the London Borough of Southwark is a series of world gardens including Islamic, Mediterranean, Oriental, Afro-Caribbean and English. The orientation of different types of trees, flower beds and mosaics surrounding the central pool gives a divine sense of serenity and tranquility that one can imagine to have in heaven. The colours used in the 8-pointed star clearly promotes peace and calmness and can aid in contemplation and prayer. There is a wealth of teachings in Islam about the obligations of Muslims to protect and nurture the natural environment. And for everyone, gardening can improve confidence and self-esteem for a sense of ownership and responsibility.
Traditionally, Islamic gardens have been understood to have a set form and a certain kind of design that is based around the plants that are mentioned in the Quran. All plants are part of Allah's creation and they all worship Allah out of their essence. So we can consider any type of garden to be an Islamic garden. Allah has placed us as stewards or khulafa on the earth, which means that we have a responsibility. We have to fulfill a trust from Allah known as an amana to take care of our environment and to preserve the balance or the mizan which Allah has created.
The most important aspects of Islamic gardens and what distinguishes them from other gardens are the intention of the garden, helping the visitor to reach an inmost tranquility, the unity of the garden through the elements, geometric layout and the surrounding architecture that reflects the fundamental teachings of the Quran, Al-Tawhid, that within everything in the created world lies an inexpressible spirit. its relation to the environmental ethics that humans are needed to care and nurture it so that it may keep its form. There is an opportunity for people to engage with history and heritage through the meaningful designs and specific features like water. An Islamic garden is a holistic garden. Its very aim is to give you everything that you want from a garden, just like the gardens of paradise.